My wife, 33F, has been acting really strange lately, and I'm starting to think she might be cheating on me with one of the kids she coaches. I feel sick even typing that. Some background: my wife is an accountant by day, and in the evenings, she volunteers as a soccer coach for a local youth team. She's always loved soccer, and I thought it was great that she was so involved with the kids and the community. But recently, she's been dropping weird comments that are starting to really concern me. It all started about 2 months ago. She casually mentioned one of the boys on her team. He's 17, and I won't say his name for obvious reasons. At first, it was harmless stuff, like he's really talented for his age or he's a natural leader on the field. I didn't think much of it because, well, she's a coach, and it's her job to encourage the kids, right? But then the comments started to get weird. Like one night, out of nowhere, she said, "You know, kid's name has really pretty eyes. They're so striking." I remember thinking, that's an odd thing to say about a kid you're coaching. I kind of brushed it off at first, but then more things followed. Another time, she came home after practice and said, "He's so much more athletic than anyone else on the team. It's impressive how developed he is." Again, I tried to shake it off, but my gut started nagging at me. Why is she talking about him so much? Then there's the fact that she's been getting way more secretive. She's always been open with her phone and emails, but lately, she's been turning her screen away from me when she texts or checks messages. I asked her about it, and she just laughed it off, saying I was being paranoid. She's also been staying later and later after practices. At first, she told me it was just because they were prepping for some tournament, but now, even with the tournament over, she's still coming home late. When I ask, she gives vague excuses like, "Oh, the team needed extra help," or "I had some paperwork to catch up on." Here's the thing that really has me spiraling. Last week, I came home early from work. I expected to have the house to myself since she was supposed to be at practice, but when I walked in, I found her sitting on the couch, texting someone with a huge smile on her face. When she saw me, she quickly locked her phone and got super flustered. She said it was just one of the parents asking about game schedules, but it didn't feel right. I don't have any solid proof, but something just feels off. Why would she be talking about this kid's looks? Why is she suddenly so secretive? I haven't been able to shake the feeling that something more is going on. I don't want to accuse her of something so serious without any real evidence, but I also don't want to ignore my instincts. I love her, and I really don't want to believe she'd do something like this, especially with a kid she's supposed to be mentoring. I reached out to a lawyer, well, sort of. An old friend from high school, who's now a successful family lawyer, happens to be visiting this week. While family law isn't exactly what I need, I'd rather speak to someone I trust before hiring a lawyer and potentially escalating things out of control. I'm meeting him for coffee tomorrow and will update you afterward. I'm hoping he can give me some solid legal advice without things getting too intense. I obviously don't want her to be arrested or anything drastic like that, but I also don't know what to do next. Right now, I'm not even angry, just overwhelmed and in shock. It's hard to process that someone I've been so close to over the last 2 years might not be who I thought and could have been hiding something awful this whole time. The last 5 days have been absolute hell. The title is a bit of a giveaway, but pretty much everyone who commented was right, and my own suspicions have been confirmed. After talking to my friend, the lawyer, we agreed that I should confront her with my concerns, suggest looking through her phone together just to put some of my suspicions to rest. I realize how risky this was, but we really didn't have a lot of choice considering there was no clear proof that anything weird had been going on. He suggested that we meet somewhere quiet, but still in a public setting in case she decided to freak out and do something irrational. I decided to take her to our local park where I sat her down on a park bench well away from any crowds of people. When we sat down together, I told her how serious of a situation we could be in and that she must be completely honest with me, and that want to be on her side, but the way she had been acting had led to some serious suspicions. I explained to her that I didn't want to break the trust between us, so had decided against looking through her phone, despite how tempted I was. When I told her the concerns, she immediately got defensive and started denying everything. She called me a paranoid asshole for even suggesting that she would be in a relationship with a minor. She said the fact that I would even question something like this means there's probably something wrong with me and that I must be the one hiding something. Honestly, the way she reacted just confirmed to me that there was something that she hadn't been telling me this entire time, and that without her cooperation, the safest bet was probably just to leave. I suggested that we look through her phone together just to provide me with closure, and even if there was nothing to hide, it would mean a lot to me that she would just humor me, and that it might even be fun to look through together and laugh at how ridiculous I was being. She screamed at me for trying to invade her privacy and that I had massively overstepped the line before storming away from me, back to the car and driving to her friend's house to stay for the night. I don't know what she talked about with her friend, but at around 3 a.m. the next morning I got a really long text from her giving her view of the situation. The messages was as follows. The entire message was considerably long, so I've summarized it for this post. My wife, I really don't think what I have been doing is wrong. It started with me just helping this kid with some extra practice because he was struggling to get the hang of some of the drills we had been working on in that day's training session. These private sessions were becoming more regular, and after about 3 weeks of extra training sessions he sent me a friend request to my Instagram. He wasn't the first one of the team to send me a request, and I wouldn't usually accept them, but as I was giving this kid private coaching sessions, I thought it made more sense. He started to send me DMs, so I responded, because I'm not a total asshole. Okay, maybe the texts aren't just about soccer anymore. There's nothing wrong with being friends with a kid. You've always been super close to your younger brother, and I've never called you out for being weird. The message then proceeded to say how much of an asshole I was for trying to call her out and trapping her in a situation that would always leave her looking bad. She ended the message by telling me that she thinks that she'll be able to look past this and forgive me for being a total insecure dickhead, and that if I ever questioned her like this again, she would be filing for a divorce. I was in complete shock when I read this response, as I have never seen this side to my wife. This is not the kind, loving, respectful, and open person whom I had married, and it is driving me totally insane. I just don't know what to do. I understand that what she was telling me is not normal, and I can't believe how naive I have been for so long. But I still feel like there's even more going on that she's not telling me. Her long message didn't actually explain why she had been messaging this kid so much and for so long, or why she had been spending literal hours every evening locked in our bedroom or on the sofa just on her phone. IDK. Maybe I am just being paranoid. Maybe this is more normal than I'm making it out to be, although this seems unlikely. Should I still try to look through her phone anyway? Despite what she's told me, when we had met the previous day, my friend mentioned that this was out of his field, but that I shouldn't contact the police until I was more sure of anything, because if we did end up getting a divorce, and she is technically innocent, calling the police on your wife for providing extra help to a kid she coaches wouldn't look very good for me in a courtroom. I did what many people suggested and contacted our local police. Although this would be the preferred option, our current financial positional and my current salary doesn't allow me to hire a private investigator. She is also the main earner in the relationship, about 60% of our shared income. Not only can I not afford to hire a PI, but there is also the issue that we have a shared bank account. Any purchases. I am aware that it's always smart to have our own individual bank accounts alongside a shared one, but we have been so close as trusting with each other that we haven't really seen the need for this, and having a joint account has never really been an issue. As her job is an accountant, she is mainly in charge of managing our banking, and any large purchases have to go through both of us, just by the way the account is set up. This means it would be practically impossible to hire a private investigator without her finding out. After our last conversation, she has moved back after staying with her friend, and we are living in the same home. It is very awkward, and I have been trying to avoid her wherever possible whilst doing my best not to let on that I am trying to dig further. It was about a day after my last post that I decided to contact the police, and after a pretty long conversation explaining the situation, they told me that there was no legal grounds for them to take action without any concrete evidence or clear signs of suspicious activity. They advised me to keep an eye out and call them immediately if anything new came up. I appreciated their time, but honestly, their advice didn't give me a clear path forward. So, there has been a major development to the situation. I am feeling a load of complicated emotions right now, and writing this has been very tricky. Since the police couldn't help, I took advice from many of you and contacted our shared mobile provider. After some back and forth, they sent over our call and SMS records from the past 6 months. These records only cover standard messages and calls. I spent hours combing through these records, trying to find anything unusual, and eventually found what I was looking for: a lot of messages and calls with a specific unknown number. After digging into it, I realized that this number wasn't the kid's. It belonged to his dad. Suddenly, things clicked, and at the same time, I was thrown into a whirlwind of emotions: grief, anger, disbelief. In a weird way, I was also somewhat relieved. I don't know for sure, but what I think has been going on this entire time is my wife has been having an affair with this kid's dad, hence her recent obsession. Knowing full well that she couldn't openly talk about her relationship with this dad, it appears she has been using his son as an outlet to talk about him in our daily lives without arousing too much suspicion. In some strange way, I even feel a hint of relief. If I'm right, at least she wasn't involved with a minor. This still feels like a betrayal, but one that's more bearable than the alternative. Looking through the messages, I can now see that she is obsessed with this man, and it looks like they are in love. I am distraught that this has been going on now for so long, and that the person who I have trusted and confided in for so long has been lying to me this entire time. I cannot really put the way I am feeling into words. I can't be certain that nothing inappropriate happened between her and the kid, but this explanation now feels more plausible to me. Still, I feel like I'm mourning the person I thought I knew and loved. The woman I've been with for 6 years, whom I trusted completely, has been hiding this from me, and it's crushing. I honestly don't see any way of working through this, so I have contacted a divorce attorney and am filing for a divorce. She isn't aware yet, as my lawyer and I are just making everything final before serving her with the papers. I am also looking for a new apartment that I can move into when this becomes more final. My father passed away 10 years ago from lung cancer, and my mom just passed away pretty recently during lockdown. I have one brother who lives on the other side of the globe and have very little contact with him nowadays. I haven't seen him since my mom's funeral, and my wife has really been the only person who has been alongside me through these tricky last few years. She has family, both her parents are still alive, and she is very close to her sister. I have no idea if any of them know anything about what's going on, but I know she tells her sister everything. Also, most of my friends are also friends of hers, or in a relationship to one of her friends, as I was new to the area when we met and didn't know many people. I don't really want to put them in the situation of having to pick sides, but also could really do with a close friend to express my feelings to. As far as the kid and his dad, I still don't actually know who they are. I don't tend to get involved with her work, like volunteering. I have never met anyone on the team she coaches or any of their parents. So, I obviously don't know anything about this guy. In none of the messages was there any mention of a wife or girlfriend, only the name of his son. At this stage, I don't think it's my responsibility to try and inform the family of the guy she's been seeing, as I literally don't even know who he is. I don't plan on confronting her about everything I have found out, but will definitely answer any questions if she asks why I'm so suddenly asking for a divorce. Now, before the update, I also need to admit something that I lied about in my last update. I said I got records from our shared phone provider, but the truth is, I actually went through her phone. I was nervous about admitting this on here and worried about potential consequences. But in retrospect, I feel I had good enough reason to check, and the phone was purchased using our shared bank account, which could give me a valid claim for accessing it. If it counts for anything, I did try to contact our shared service provider, but they told me they don't give out any specific personal information, this includes messages, to anyone but the police, for security and confidentiality reasons. When looking through her messages with "Hot Soccer Dad," the same name kept coming up and it became clear that this was the kid. The messages made it quite obvious who it was, as they were often using the kid as an excuse to stay in contact. The conversations were overly flirty, and it was quite obvious that something was going on between the two of them. On top of this, it looks like they have met up several times for coffee after practice. I don't know where the kid goes in that time, as there is still no mention of his mother, and I still don't know much about the kid's family situation. With all that said, I'm relieved to say that things are finally moving forward. I decided to meet with a divorce attorney who has been fantastic and am in the process of finalizing everything. I'm now set up in a temporary apartment with a separate bank account. It was surprisingly easy to open, and I regret not doing it earlier. The freedom it's given me has been a massive weight off my shoulders. I'm not naive anymore and I have no intention of dragging this out, but no, things may still get complicated. Though, after a lot of stress and uncertainty, I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a relief to think she'll soon be out of my life. The last real piece of bad news in this update: her family, especially her sister, is fully aware of the situation but has chosen to side with her. I've never been the biggest fan of her sister, to be completely honest, but never to this extent. I've been receiving aggressive messages from her sister, calling me selfish and threatening to ensure my wife gets everything. They've even implied that they use their family's financial resources to back her legally, as they're well off and have offered to cover her costs. To add to this, there are some legal loopholes regarding out shared assets, including the house, which could mean I have a lot more to lose in this than I expected. This has been a humbling and, in some ways, eye-opening experience. I always assumed infidelity, or these kinds of situations, would be easy to spot. I never expected to be blindsided by my own partner, someone I loved and trusted completely. I realize now that betrayal doesn't fit into near categories or follow obvious patterns. Although this situation didn't turn out to be the predatory relationship I feared, it showed me that anyone, male or female, can be vulnerable to this kind of manipulation. With the court date likely coming up in the next couple months and the divorce process underway, it feels like I'm nearing the end of this exhausting chapter. I'm incredibly grateful for all the support and insight I've received here. It's been a strange few weeks, but I'm determined to close this chapter and start fresh. I'll keep sharing updates as things progress, though I don't foresee too many more developments. And one more thing I forgot to add: I reconnected with my brother and shared everything about what's been happening. Thankfully, he was really glad I reached out, and he's actually planning to come visit at the end of the year. I'm really looking forward to it. I've missed him a lot since we last saw each other during the difficult time of our mother's passing. Second story. For some reason recently he's started to think I'm messaging and meeting other men. I'm not. I've never messaged anyone since the day of our first date, and I've certainly not met anyone. I don't know where this has come from. We have each other's passcodes for our phones, but I've never once felt the need to look at his, and I don't mind him using mine, but reading my messages I do mind, as I don't think it's fair on the people I'm talking to. On to what happened. I went to the shops the other day and I left my phone at home. When I got back, my husband got in my face and called me a slag and a tramp and all sorts of other nasty names. He went through my Facebook messages and found a message from 16 years ago. At the time I was so poor, having just lost my job and having bills to pay. I applied for hundreds of jobs and needed my car to get to interviews. It broke down. Not terribly, but it needed a new alternator. I messaged a couple of friends who were mechanics and both wanted over £100, which was a good quote, but I just couldn't afford it. I offered one of them I'd send him a couple of nudes for now and pay him when I got a job. He agreed, and within a day I was back on the road. Once I had a job I offered to pay him and everything was fine. The mechanic is sadly dead now, so my husband has nothing to be wary of. After he finished ranting and raving at me, I told him I'll never forgive him for looking through my phone and invading my privacy. I asked if he'd found anything else and he said no. I said, see, how many times do I have to tell you? In fact, I'm done telling you. I picked a few things and I left for my sister's, where I still am now. Is what I did 10 years before I met him really that bad? I'm starting to think he's projecting with all these accusations constantly, and now I'm starting to doubt him. Once trust has been broken like this, can it be repaired? Backstory. For months my husband has been suspicious for months that I'm cheating, even though I've never even messaged another man since before our first date. He snooped on my phone and found a message from 16 years ago, so 10 years before we got together, where I was short of money, so sent a mechanic some nudes in lieu of payment for supplying and fitting an alternator. He called me all sort of names and I got mad back and said I'll never trust him and I think he's projecting. On to the update, and like many of you suggested, he was projecting and he's the one who's cheating. I left for my sister's for a few days when I wrote that post, driving past a premiere in near her house and saw his car outside. Waited by it for 3 hours, where he eventually emerged with another woman. He said it was the first time and he thought we'd split up. She said to him, "What are you talking about and who is this?" Referring to me. He literally ran off like a coward. I spoke to this woman who turned out to be lovely, and she said they'd been seeing each other for over a year, but he told her he was living with his religious parents after leaving his wife, so that's why they can never go back to his, and got hotels. She was such a lovely young woman and I ended up having to console her and took her home myself. As for us, I'm back at home and he is now back at his parents, who were very disappointed in him when they heard the news and have been lovely to me. I've started divorce proceedings, but that'll be about a year away, I'd imagine. Third story. I'm 25F and my fiancé is 25M. We have been together for 4 years. My fiancé is religious, I'm not, despite that he and his family accepted me. At first his mom was against me and against dating itself, but eventually she accepted me and we have a very close mother and daughter-like bond. Our families accept each other and we got engaged 4 months ago. Me and my fiancé didn't have a yet. He's always wanted to wait till we get married. He still thinks that I'm a virgin. I lied to him and told him that I was, but the truth is I'm not a virgin. I had a boyfriend before I met my fiancé, but he just used me for a say and dumped me. I was serious with X, but now I feel guilty for lying to him. He's possibly the sweetest and most caring man I have ever seen, and I don't want to lose him. I feel like if I told my fiancé the truth, there's a chance he might leave me. I know he might not, cause he loves me as well, but I still fear he might, and I don't want to lose him, but I feel guilty for lying to him. This lie is eating me for inside. My best friend knows the truth and she says there's nothing wrong with lying to him, as it's not a big deal, but I feel guilty. So, I couldn't hold it in me any longer, so 5 days ago, I told him the truth. I told him that I had been lying to him for years and I'm not a virgin. Many advised me to not tell him, but I couldn't get over my guilt. He was shocked like never before. He asked me if I was joking. I said no, I am not joking. He looked so disappointed and shocked it made me cry. He asked me why am I telling him now after all these years. I said I couldn't get married on lies. I told him I lied because I loved him and I didn't want to lose him, but I also couldn't get married to him on lies. He didn't say anything for a while. I broke the silence and asked him to tell me what he's thinking. Would you not get married to me after knowing this? He said that he isn't breaking our engagement and is going to get married to me, but he needs time to get over it all. He said he never expected something like this. I said that it's not a big deal and not worth ruining our lovely life over. It's gone and happened years ago. He said that what will he say to his parents if they find out about this? I said they don't need to know and might never know. I hugged him and said in his ears, would he finally be willing to have SE with me? It's been 5 years almost. It's time we have SE for the first time. Without hesitation he said no, he won't, not yet. He said he is still getting married to me, but he needs time. But the thing is, he isn't replying or acting the way he used to before I told him the truth 5 days ago. So when I couldn't find anything else, I called his cousin, who has become a good friend of mine over these years, and told her everything. We met and she told me that she's not a virgin either, but hid it. She said that we both should go talk to him, so today we both met him, and his cousin consoled him and said that it's not a big deal, and it's all in the past, and she knows that my fiancé is hurt, but it's not worth breaking everything me and my fiancé fought so hard for. He said that he is not breaking the engagement. His cousin said then he shouldn't react the way he is reacting towards me. She said that to my fiancé, that we should finally have a see and enjoy life. See might deepen our love and help him get over what he is feeling. He said no, not until marriage. He promised me that we are getting married, but he will stick to his morals. Now I'm feeling so sad and broken that I can't even think straight. I'm so stressed. I know my fiancé promised me and I know he loves me. I trust him with my life and so he does. He would never lie to me or hurt me. If he didn't want to get married to me he would have just refused. But he didn't. But I can't see him like this. I want to hug him and kiss him and hurt him in the bed and enjoy rest of my life with him. If I could I would like to rush the wedding, but how can I help him get over this? I consulted with my best friend and she said if I had just kept my mouth shut we would have both lived a great life. I did nothing but hurt him by telling him something he didn't need to know, and it didn't make any difference except strained our relationship. I mostly regret my decision, but I'm glad that I'm no longer lying to the man I don't deserve and the only man I love the most. I just pray he doesn't leave me and we both get over this. My soon-to-be husband is the best I could ever hope for as a husband. He's religious but he never imposed his belief on me. I understand that I fucked up by lying to him for 5 years and I shouldn't have, but I did and I was guilty, so I came clean to him. I also understand that he was hurt and he thought that I was a virgin as well, like he is, but I betrayed him. It's not his fault but mine, and also I do not care if the AC with him is good or not, I just want him. Today in the morning he called me and said that he wants to talk to me. He said it's better if we just talk instead of just getting angry and ignoring each other. I sent him texts ever since he asked me to give him some time to think, every few hours, about how sorry I was for lying to him and asked for forgiveness, and he himself came to me to talk. He asked me why I lied to him and I told him the truth. I told him that I love him very much and I didn't want to lose him and I regret having same I. My lovely soon-to-be husband said that he wouldn't break off the engagement and would still marry me, but I shouldn't have lied, and it's too late for him to break off the engagement because he loves me just as much as I do and our families will question us. I immediately hugged him. What hurt me the most is his questions. He asked me if I liked being with my ex and if I enjoyed it and do I miss him and would I be able to enjoy it with him, and the worst was that he asked me did I go back to him or anyone else to be intimate. I started crying. He hugged me and said he didn't mean to hurt me, he was just asking. I understood where he came from. I am his first woman and I said he doesn't have to feel or think the way he is feeling and I will help him understand how it all works. I was crying and asked him if I could give him a kiss on his lips and he agreed. I gave him a kiss and I was still crying. He hugged me and said he will not leave and he loves me too much to do so. I love him so much. I cannot wait to have a see with him for the first time. I will definitely hurt him in bed and expose him to how the SC works and pleasure him so much that he would never even think about leaving me. He's mine and mine alone. He might be bad, but I will train him and make him understand that I love him way too much to leave, and train him how the SE works, and he doesn't have to worry about me cheating on him. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Red Relationships to never miss a future upload.